Oh, you may not know it based on the production on the field, but the New York Football Giants are going to continue to play games this NFL season. Next up, division rival with the Washington Commanders. We break down the players to watch. We take a look at predictions, because why not? And ask the question, what does Brian Daboll need to do in a game like this to make sure his job is secure? It's all coming up next. Yes, my friends, it's OGP, the One Giant Podcast, where over there is Andrew Makowitz, over here is Adam Armbrecht, and we are in with the game day preview. New York Football Giants, Washington Commanders. Remember that time when these two teams played each other a few weeks ago, and you thought, they're both scrapping and fighting, and then the trade deadline came, and Washington said, the heck with it, take all of our defensive edge rushers, and then still went out and showed themselves to be a competitive football team. Andy, does this feel like you should be looking in the mirror with the Commanders, and yet the image that's reflecting back looks a lot sexier than what you see in yourself? Because the Commanders feel like they are on a very different track right now than the Giants.
Well, I mean, look at the Washington Commanders and imagine they don't have Sam Howell leading the league in passing yards per game. And also Jacoby Brissett is on IR with a knee injury. And they have to call someone like, I don't know, Ben DiNucci up from like one of the XFL teams or like Canadian Football League teams and say, hey, listen, I know we sold some people at the trade deadline. I know you don't have a number one wide receiver, but like, Ben, go out there and make it happen for us. That would be looking each other in the mirror. I think the Giants are further away, which might get them better faster than where the Commanders are, which is kind of the ironic thing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's been a lot of rumblings about what's going to happen with Ron Rivera at the end of this year. Obviously, they switched over their offensive coordinator coming this season, and that has turned on this offense in a way that over the past few seasons, Washington fans have certainly asked the question, what are we doing here? A lot of weapons, not seeing a lot of production. So they've been able to do that with Bieniemy at the helm. It is interesting. Like, I think we wanted the Giants to be that kind of team, right? Maybe a game or two above 500, making that wild card, having the conversation. Now, is their ceiling closer to being higher than Washington? I got to be honest with you, man. I agree with you that because the Giants are bad, they'll have better picks to get better faster. But Washington has a lot of talent on this team. And I think there's like just a part of that reminder when they traded away Sweat and traded away Chase Young. And then you went in and you looked and you go, oh, yeah, the reason why is because the interior of their defensive line also has incredibly talented players. And they also have incredibly talented weapons on the offensive side of the ball at every key position. It has been fascinating to me to kind of watch Washington this year and say, are they a playoff team? Obviously not. But they're also a team that seems to have a core at least in place right now.
And yet, they inexcusably only put up 7 points against these feudal New York Giants and lost the game to the Giants' backup quarterback. Like, that's how crazy it is. Like, you're kind of like, oh, they're better. And then they've already played and they weren't. And you're like, it doesn't make sense. And that's why it's so delusional as a Giants fan, where you're like, no, but we're better than these teams that lead the league in passing. Like, how can we be so bad? Yet we are. It's just the fact of the matter. And Adam, think about that. Sam Howell threw for 249, one interception. They only put up 7 points to lose to the Giants.
Yeah.
I mean, Giants went to 2-5, Commanders went to 3-4. And after that game, you're like, maybe if we get Jones back, maybe we can kind of climb the ladder a little bit and have an outside shot at things, right?
Well, and just before we do it, and this is why Washington is a fascinating case study here for the NFL, because the week after they lost to the Giants 14-7, they lost again, but it was to the Philadelphia Eagles, and it was 38-31. And that's the big difference here. The Giants have never once this season said, hey, by the way, watch this. I mean, there was that second half against the Arizona Cardinals, but that feels like 20 years ago at this point. Like, yes, 100%. It is such a weird, and I think this league has been weird this year like this. When you turn around and realize that Washington has lost 6 out of their last 8 games. Like, they're a 4-win team. It really is. And yet I feel like they could be talented. They could be good. Listen, it all doesn't matter. The most important thing is the New York Football Giants maybe show they're capable of something in this game without accidentally walking into a win. And in that vein, who carries over from last week for you against the Dallas Cowboys? Don't watch the tape on that, but that you think we talked about this, individual performers who can show you something regardless of the results of the game that says you are moving forward, you are showing progress, you are a part of this team beyond this very bad season.
So the issue is the Giants have a whole host of injuries, and we don't
Yeah, they do.
necessarily know who's going to play. If you look at the laundry list, basically every single person in the secondary is questionable, and a whole host of players on offense are questionable. And the guys, and no one has been able to really get out of concussion protocol that's been in it so far this season. And so that doesn't look good for guys like Jalen Hyatt and guys like Kayvon Thibodeau, who are in the protocol right now. You would want to say, hey, let's just see Tommy DeVito throwing up top to Jalen Hyatt. Let's see him high point a ball. Let's all get excited about what the future is.
Well, I watched him
Unfortunately,
try to do
Jalen
that
Hyatt's
last
gonna,
week. And frankly, the results were a little bit upsetting. The old lob it up there wasn't
right.
quite.
The whole lob it up there didn't really work, didn't manufacture things. So when you're asking like what I want to see, Adam, I don't know. I want to see a defense that's relatively competitive. I want to see an offense that doesn't have offensive linemen turning around looking to tackle their own running backs. Like I want to just see competent play, discipline play. And if you just don't have enough talent to outbeat the other team, at least you're trying hard and you're like working at things. I know that sounds really bleak, but like I don't know, Bobby Okereke might be out. Kayvon, who's supposed to be the future at the edge, injured. Like, what are you looking for in this game? I just don't know.
I know, and Pinnock as well with the thumb, and Xavier McKinney with the ribs, and offensively it's Robinson with the knee, and Jalen Hyatt, as you mentioned, with the concussion. It's Saquon Barkley with the ankle. Like, it's funny, man. A fan had mentioned this to us of like, sit everybody down. I was like, well, you can't because you just have to functionally field a team. Guess what? The Giants may functionally field a team, and it's going to look like the JV roster at your local high school at a certain point here. I know, and that's kind of the I don't know if it's the brutal part or not, but I think it is the reality. Like, you're not going to have anything to take away from these games if these guys don't play. Because who are you evaluating? Practice squad guys, career journeyman backups. There's not going to be a lot to really get in the weeds on here for the Giants if these players aren't healthy. Now, do we already know what Saquon Barkley is? Of course we do. I said I wanted to see over the back end of this season Xavier McKinney. Where's the dedication level, right? What is he showing? Jason Pinnock has certainly been a staple in that secondary. But Micah McFadden, I guess we'll circle right back to him. He can show me things. He can continue to be a guy that grows into this. And maybe inside that linebacker room, unfortunately, this would have been a great opportunity for a Darian Beavers, not with the team anymore, right? For several players that we thought never got the chance. I no longer go, well, maybe Carter Coughlin, right? Or maybe Cam Brown. Sorry, we've already kind of confirmed them as being special team lifers, right? So no one in that vein is going to surprise me here either. Maybe. I look at Darnay Holmes, who got picked on last week a ton. I could say, hey, man, this is at least your chance to show that you have NFL level value, because as of late, you've really tumbled down ever since what was a great training camp. From week one on, it just felt like he could not find his way.
I have two names on the offensive side of the ball. I think that was a
Perfect.
really good defensive wrap up that you did there. It's
Yeah.
tough with all the injuries. Like, who's going to be out there if
First,
the
tell me
secondary
first tell me
is
who they signed before the game on Sunday, and I'll tell you I'm interested in watching them.
well, we're a big Dame Belton podcast, so maybe he gets out there and has some additional reps to get creative. So I know I
That's right.
just wanted to make sure we hit on that. The two names that come to mind to me are for kind of two similar reasons. One, Isaiah Hodgins.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. The quarterback play is going to be pretty questionable the rest of the way. We re-signed Hodgins to like a veteran, not a veteran minimum, but like a minimum deal because he was kind of a restricted agent for us. Like, he becomes a free agent, I believe, at the end of the year. And the question's like, he showed flashes last year. We haven't seen the same flashes this year. What do you make of Isaiah Hodgins? And if you say it's just the quarterback play, well, it's not going to improve over the rest of the year. So what
Right.
decision are you making, right? Like, that's one. The second piece is you and I both like Jay Sean Corbin. I think we want to see
Yeah.
more of him.
Ooh,
If
good one,
Saquon
man.
Barkley doesn't play, instead of giving Matt Breida a whole host of touches, why don't we just see what Jay Sean Corbin has? Like, why don't we see if there's a younger, like a little bit fresher guy that could
Yeah.
be part of the future plans? So those two for me, just because they have longer term implications than just this game.
Yeah, 100%. Isaiah Hodgins is trying to make the case. Can you be the fourth wide receiver on this roster going for right? Like, and that's fine, man. I'll throw in Darius Slayton because some people seem to think, oh, you can move off of him in the offseason. I've liked him. I love that he's still a part of this team. I hope that he stays with them. And all you're looking for with the receiver specifically, hey, man, it's about getting off the line, right? The releases. If Tommy DeVito throws every single ball to the other team, you'll still know that every second leading up to the pass, whether or not receivers won their battle. So that's good to watch for there as well. All right, my friend, we know the deal here. We don't need to go a mile deep. Let's talk about the fact that the Giants are getting, 9.5 points here on the road in Washington. They're plus 350 on the money line. This is one of the lowest NFL over-unders you're going to see around the league, 36.5. Andy, are you going to bank on the fact that somehow, some way, the Giants have just had the Commanders' number? Because it feels like everyone wants to, like, just for the sake of argument, bring that out. And I keep, like, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, well, guess what? We all thought, like, oh, be more respectable, at least for a little while against the Cowboys. It was a massacre. And I don't know what Washington is or isn't. They still have something to play for right now. Like, they still do have games to win, and they've already shown they're willing to win games, right? They're not in tank mode here. I think Washington makes a bit of a statement. As of this moment, Giants, you are firmly in the basement of the NFC East.
Shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Cleveland Browns. Their over under with Deshaun Watson going out has cratered to 32 and a half,
Oh my
Adam. So,
God.
like, when you think about how futile the offense is for the Giants, you're talking about two potential playoff teams having 4 points less than what they expect Tommy DeVito to go out there and do. So, bravo to them for, like, really, really just showing that offense doesn't
You
really
know what?
matter half the time in this league.
We talked about one other time, Brian Daboll and what's going on with Buffalo and head coaches and whatever. I would give 1,000 first-round picks to have Mike Tomlin be the head coach of the New York Football Giants. This dude, I don't care. He never steps foot on the field, but I swear he is the guy that makes the pivotal plays that keeps this team in the playoff picture year after year after year. God, he is absolutely perfect. And that organization is phenomenal with head coaching stability.
Never been under 500. It's an amazing stat that looks like it's going to continue again. He is just an unbelievable coach. Adam, if
Yes.
Saquon Barkley doesn't play, you're
Mm-hmm.
relying on Matt Breida and you're also relying on Tommy DeVito to throw the ball. In
Yep.
his 3 games, he had -1 yards against the Jets,
Solid.
175 against the Raiders when he came in and threw
Okay.
2 picks, and he had 86 yards against the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see a world where the Giants get in the end zone twice. Like I don't like someone would have to fall. There'd have to be a couple fumbles. Like maybe they forget to come out of the locker room for the second half. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's some penalties. I just don't see the Giants being competitive. I want them to be competitive. I want them to show fight. But with all those injuries in the secondary, I just don't know if it's going to happen. I'm going to take the Washington Commanders 23-6 in a game that nobody wants to watch. Even your hosts at OGP are going to have to like watch with one eye closed while you're watching Red Zone on another TV because this is brutal for everyone all around.
Oh my God, dude. It's an absolute mess. And then what do you say? So 23-6, that's the under, firmly the under there for this game. By the way, hey, you want to get on the prop action? Tommy DeVito over under 160.5 yards. That's the over under for his passing. Dude. I
Good
mean,
gosh.
listen, and he is a guy to watch. You know what's unfortunate for him is he's 25 years old. I didn't realize that. You know, some things were like, well, could he be like a backup potentially? That's something you could learn. But even at that point, you're like, well, but will you and could you? Because there's a dozen other names that you can throw out that you go, I've already seen this guy play. This just feels like a practice squad player that, quite frankly, the Giants are doing a massive disservice to by sending him out there and making him stand in front of the podium in post games and answer questions. Hey, what did you see out there? How do you think this team is operating? It is an absolute mess. So I probably wouldn't touch those numbers. And I agree with you, dude. How can you really bank on it? Now, listen, you'd like to hang your hat on defensive scores and that production. We just listed a half a dozen starters that may not be a part of this. So, man, I might even go a little bit deeper. I just think that this team is going the wrong way. I think this is going to be a really rough back half of the season. I'm going to take this thing 27-7. I will give him an official touchdown in this one. Listen, hopefully, I don't know, show me something, right? You said Jay-Sean Corbin earlier. I think that's a great one. Let me see him just kind of run for some big yards here, hit a couple of home run plays for 15, 20 yards, and just give Giants fans 16 seconds of joy inside of what I think could be a really rough game and obviously a rough remainder of the season. That's the deal, guys. We're not taking them. And I'm not giving you any parlays or bets to cover here because what are we talking about? I don't know. Take the overs on yardage for some of the Washington Commanders wide receivers if you want. We will still be back in talking about post game and we'll find out. Watch Brian Daboll. How about that? How does Brian Daboll handle the sideline here? Because all of his anger and outburst, and you're all good with that when they're going to the playoffs a year ago. Now, he kind of has looked like a defeated man. So what is he doing on the sidelines to keep this team engaged, to keep Darius Slayton from venting his frustrations maybe at times as well? Everybody is right on the brink here, it feels like. That is what it is to be a New York Football Giants fan right now. In the meantime, though, get over to, oh, sorry, Andy, hold on. You had something really poignant to bring up here, I think.
I was just going to say, we're all rooting for Jay Sean Corbin. You may as well give the tip. Anytime touchdown scorer for Jay Sean Corbin, 27-1 right now. Why not? Why not him,
baby.
Adam? Why not this game? Why not Jay Sean this time?
Bang! Lock it up. 27-7 loss, but we all make a little bit of cheddar on the back of Jay Sean Corbin. Until next time, guys, you follow us over on X at One Giant Podcast, at AndyMac214, and at Adam Armbrecht, on YouTube at One Giant Podcast, on the podcast feed, wherever you get those needs fulfilled. Until next time, for better or worse, as Andrew Mackwitz would want, need, and nay, demand the people know.
As always, let's go Big Blue.